What's the number one issue, and do you think there's even a common theme with your different schools here that you guys would sit down and say, oh, I know, we're dealing with that too? Is there anything that jumps out at you?
Well, on the Illinois side of the river, funding still is probably the number one issue, at least for the four-year university systems. Now, President Costello at the community college has been treated a little bit better in Governor Rauner's budget as proposed. And that the General Assembly has acted upon. But right now, we're really in a pretty critical situation for public higher education in Illinois. But I won't, regale you with all kinds of tales there. But we're in a situation now that we're going to have to navigate in terms of kind of larger, more global issues. I'm sure we're all going to, put our 2 cents in terms of things relating to the changing demographics of higher education student, the value of the degree, things of that nature. But we're in a funding crisis now in Illinois.
I'd like to learn more specifics about what you're talking about. What does that mean for, say, a high school student coming into the college system? Are there going to be cuts? Are there going to be staffing cuts, program cuts? You tell me.
Well, in the governor's proposed budget back in February, there was a proposal to remove 31.5% of the state support for the public institutions. For the SIU system, all of our campuses, that's about $62 million. There's no way that we can deal with that without changing the face of the university, increasing tuition, drastically reducing offerings, pulling back on regional services and things of that nature. So this discussion here nationally about the changing model or a new business model for higher education is something that we're facing in a pretty direct way right now, looking at all of those elements.
And Beth, at Webster University, it's a private school, so what's the number one issue for you? When you're up at night and you're thinking, I got to fix this tomorrow, what would it be?
Well, the biggest issue I advocate for at the federal level as well as the state level would be affordability and support for young people to go to college. And so that's really little different from a public institution and a private institution when you're talking about a student's point of view, because a student and their family care about going to a college that adds value, gets them completed with a degree that does for them what they're seeking that degree to do, and that they're not saddled with debt that they can't repay with the job that they get. So at a private institution, the money that comes to a student from state and federal sources is hugely important. So it doesn't come to the institution like it would if I worked at a public, which I have in the past before I came to Webster, but it funnels to students. So in Missouri, Access Missouri is funding that the state of Missouri provides for the neediest students in the state, and they use that money at the institution of their choice. At the federal level, 35% of our incoming freshmen get what is a Pell Grant. Those are grants for the neediest financial students. So Webster is a private, but we're certainly not a private that serves an elite, full-paying audience. 78% of our undergraduates get some kind of financial aid, and the vast majority of it would come from federal, state sources, as well as dollars we raise from donors to meet the need.
So in other words, my original premise, funding is not as important to you. It is just as important.
That's exactly what it is.
It is just as important as our last panel discussion. And Georgia, for you at SWIC, what's your number one concern on a daily basis?
Like President Dunn, we don't have the problem with financing nearly to the degree that colleges and universities in the state of Illinois do. We are flat funded this year by our state, which was a great surprise, and we're very pleased and grateful that we have been flat funded.
What does that mean?
That means that we don't lose any of the funding level from the state that we have normally been getting.
Stays the same.
So it's flat. Yes, sir. It's not increased, but not decreased.